When you're listening to an artist in their 70s, in their 80s, like Paul McCartney, it's easy to hear an aging voice and maybe some safer musical choices than they would have made in their 20s or their 30s. But I think it's a worthy challenge to flip your perspective and think this is music that only could have been made by someone of this age with their wisdom, with their experience. And in Paul's case, more experience than literally anyone in music. This is a truly one of one viewpoint from a truly one of one songwriter. He is, after all, Paul McCartney, the only artist to have an album reach the top 2 chart positions in every single one of the last 6 decades. And that's kind of the perspective that got me to listen to this album so closely, even though honestly, I haven't listened to any of his post-80s albums more than like once or twice. It kind of reminds me of that album 7 Psalms by Paul Simon in this way. You know, for whatever reason, having mostly ignored the last 20 years of their music, I'm digging into these new albums with a newfound reverence, a sincere gratitude, because it could be their last go-around. And for any Beatles fanatic like myself who know that the Beatles are the best band in rock and roll history, then why wouldn't I give the time of day to Paul, who's possibly the best songwriter in rock and roll? The Boys of Dungeon Lane, this new album, is the 20th Paul solo album, not counting all the Wings albums. I think there are like 7 or 8 of those, and there's various other projects. There's, classical albums and the Fireman Project. This album's produced by Andrew Watt, who's a Grammy-winning producer who's pretty much worked with every artist in music at this point, and drawing inspiration from the photo album in his mind of memories, stories from childhood, family history, his parents' lives during World War II, after World War II, a lot of things, even early Beatles days. It's so beautifully Paul to be so forthcoming about an album that's filled with nostalgia and looking back and even some silly love songs. Because perhaps Paul's most endearing, his most enduring quality is his ability to maintain just that earnestness, that optimism, that, sense of childhood innocence almost, That's just Paul. So let's dig into this album. We got the opener, As We Lie There, which immediately tells you this is going to be a very intentionally crafted album. There's a lot going on production-wise with this huge instrumental palette from acoustic guitar and piano, and you got some backing vocals and, distorted guitars, but then there's like a few other guitar tones. And compositionally, the chords aren't obvious. That guitar solo section is really unexpected. Paul's vocals sound excellent. This is really like the finest example of a song in this album where I can tell that this compressed streaming audio is really a hindrance. I bet this song really comes to life on vinyl. Lost Horizon is a simple rocker that honestly just kind of floats right by me. There's nothing in this song that I'm really latching onto. The lead single, Days We Left Behind, is the tearjerker ballad on the album, and he really makes use of that wise old grandfather tone. It's very sincere, it's very direct. I'm kind of lukewarm on the melody of the song, but I feel like its real draw is just the intimacy and just the warmth. The song is a real mood. Ripples in the Pond has this very youthful indie pop hop in its step. It's a big standout for me. Very surprising because all of a sudden I feel like I'm listening to like Always or The Japanese House or something. With just a touch of that Americana, heartland rock sort of thing that the War on Drugs would do, or Sam Fender. Mountaintop is another very unique song. It's another left turn on the album, and it also has a lot of left turns within the song, within a very short 3.5-minute runtime. There's some regal harpsichord, and there's some driving rock, and there's very blissful psychedelia with Moog and with Wurlitzer and synth and all sorts of stuff going on. A mosaic of different instruments and textures, and even this crazy psych rock freakout in the last 40 seconds. The song Down South unfortunately begins this kind of mid-album lull for me with a run of tracks that take a much more minimal production approach and aren't better because of it. Really, Down South, We Too, and Come Inside don't do a whole lot for me besides some cool chord changes on We Too. Never Know and Home to Us bring Slight improvement for me, Home to Us is this duet with Ringo, which is pretty cool, his first ever. You think of Ringo's Beatles songs, and at that point, they really could not sound more different, but it's really hard to tell them apart in this song. They're alternating lines, singing of a very modest, working class upbringing in Liverpool. Ringo also plays drums on this song, but for me, the best part of the song are those female backing harmonies, so luscious, so just ear candy. But then the last leg of this album is so stellar, starting with the song Life Can Be Hard, and finally we get some granny music. I absolutely love this song. It feels like I'm walking down some cobblestone street in Europe or something. The fingerpick guitar has that ornate, timeless quality that is just so classic Paul. The arrangement is just so lush and gorgeous as well. You got the guitar, you got woodwind that comes in, you got the piano, you got the light brushes on the kit. And then just when you think it couldn't get any better, you get that chorus section with the mellotron kind of echoing him, and it's bringing in the elements of psychedelia again. Life Can Be Hard, instant McCartney classic for me. It's really a deep cut that's become one of my songs of the year so far. So good. The next song, First Song of the Night, is another banger for me. I'm not sure if you can say that about a gentle folk song, but whatever. It's just the subtleties of the chord progression, and Paul's just very pleasing low range comes out on the song. Life Can Be Hard and First Star of the Night are really understated gems. I feel like they're going to be overlooked on the album because they're maybe not as direct as some of the other songs. There aren't really hooks on these songs, but the depth of musicality is just remarkable, and I feel like he's able to keep it feeling so effortless, so airy, so light, and just not cloying. The low-key cuts continue on Salesman Saint. This is a tale about his parents, and I love how this bucolic 6/8 folk song goes to a driving 4/4 on that chorus, or that other section. It's this sneaky little subtle move, but I see you, Paul. And that 1940s little music sample in there is just so brilliant. It works so well with the rest of the song. So that's 3 great songs in a row, and I can't not talk about the closer, Mama Gets By, which is this fictional tale about a tirelessly working mom who marries an absolute slug of a husband. She works a job, she raises a family while he wastes his money, wastes his time, gets high, doesn't pull his weight at all. Paul says it wasn't too long ago that she agreed to be his wife, and even though he's complicated, she takes it in her stride. What are his silly faults compared to what she feels inside? She loves him. She loves him with all her heart and soul. These were easily the most affecting lyrics for me on the album for whatever reason. And, it's just a simple, profound story of how someone's attitude, how someone's outlook can totally change their experience, how love can overcome it all. And again, it really just sums up Paul's bright-eyed spirit, his optimism. That turn into that She Loves You lyric releases musically, and the strings swoon romantically behind it, and it's just pure brilliance, really. The whole album is really half and half. Half the songs just aren't really connecting with me yet. But right in the middle of the album, right when I thought we're going downhill, this album's gonna peter out, the last 4 songs restored my faith, restored my just childish wonder in Paul McCartney, where I'm left saying, wow, you still got it, man. The production is excellent across the board on this album, but in its best moments, the writing is also surprisingly ambitious. Another YouTuber, Andrew Dixon, made this point. He covers the Beatles extensively and Paul's music. Great point about the difference between Bob Dylan and Paul McCartney, at least in their later years here, is that in the first minute of a Bob Dylan song, you really know what you're getting musically. He's not throwing that many curveballs at you, but lyrically, he can throw some curveballs. You don't know where he's going to go to in the story. Whereas Paul McCartney is the exact opposite. You know what you're getting. You know the sentiment of the song in like a minute. But musically, he could still throw a ton of curveballs at you and do some interesting things compositionally. The Boys of Dungeon Lane is a really solid album. It's not one that I'm going to be listening to front to back probably all that often, but there are like 6 or 7 tracks that are really, really good and I'll be returning to a lot. It's a 7 out of 10 for me, and a big surprise too. This is not one that I expected to like this much. But all you way bigger Paul Solo fans out there, let me know what you think of this album, where it fits into his catalog, what albums from his past work I should return to, especially the last like 6 or 7, because I just do not know those well at all. If you're skeptical, I do recommend digging into this one. I feel like, yeah, you'll find some songs you really love. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. And as always, thank you so much for watching.